The Kyle Rittenhouse trial is underway, and in his opening statements, the defense attorney for Rittenhouse, Mark Richards, argued that his client was not in any way some dangerous murderer, but he was there in Kenosha, Wisconsin, a state that he does not live in, to essentially protect the community, and then he found himself acting in self-defense. So let's hear what he had to say, and I'll fill you in with some more details.
Mr. Binger makes a big thing out of Kyle Rittenhouse was the only person who shot somebody that evening. True. Mr. Rittenhouse was the only person who was chased by Joseph Rosenbaum that evening. The evidence will show he thought probably that he could get that gun from Kyle Rittenhouse. He was wrong. Kyle Rittenhouse protected himself, protected his firearm so it couldn't be taken, used against him or other people from Mr. Rosenbaum who'd made threats to kill. And the other individuals who didn't see that shooting attacked him in the street like an animal.
So to give you some more of what's happening in the case so far in the trial, the New York Times reports that when he went downtown on the third day of protests after the police shooting of Jacob Blake, Rittenhouse was there to clean graffiti and help protect the city from more destruction, his lawyer said. So, there are, of course, legitimate questions as to why Rittenhouse was there, especially since he's a resident of Illinois and really had no business in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So what his lawyer is trying to do here is make the case that he acted in self-defense in using his weapon. And he's also trying to explain why Rittenhouse would be there in the first place. Richards, the defense attorney here, turned to the people who were shot by Rittenhouse, characterizing them as hostile and belligerent. So what we had shared with you earlier in regard to the judge in this case, allowing the defense attorney or the defense to use that kind of rhetoric to kind of paint a picture of the very people who were shot and killed, that is playing out. However, as we had also shared with you earlier, the prosecutors are not allowed to use the word victim when referring to the individuals who were shot, including the two who were shot and killed by Rittenhouse. Remember, there were 3 who were shot, 2 of whom died as a result of him opening fire. Now, here's what allegedly happened that night, according to the defense attorney. After Rittenhouse shot Joseph Rosenbaum and fled down Sheridan Road away from the scene, he was chased by dozens of people, including, here are the 2 other victims, right? Anthony Huber and Greg Grosskreutz, okay? As citizens who were trying to stop an active shooter. The defense characterized them as aggressors. Now, Huber, according to the defense here, Huber bludgeoned Rittenhouse with a skateboard, Richard said, and a man who was captured on video but never identified jump kicked Mr. Rittenhouse in the face. So look, these details do matter because this stuff is caught on camera. You do see it in the video, someone taking a skateboard and hitting Rittenhouse over the head with it as he's on his back. And I haven't seen this video yet, but it was already, the New York Times says it's on tape. There's someone captured on video, someone who has not been identified, kicking Rittenhouse in the face. So look, these details matter because if you're gonna make an argument that you acted in self-defense, there needs to be some proof that there was an imminent threat. Right, and in this case, the imminent threat is the guy using the skateboard and someone kicking Rittenhouse in the face as he's on his back. Now, what really mattered to me was how all of this unfolded. What was the thing that sparked it? What started all of it? And initially, I was under the assumption that Rittenhouse was the person who was chasing after Joseph Rosenbaum, that's how it had started. But I was wrong about that. Okay, so I want to correct the record. I was in fact wrong about that. And to show you the evidence, to reinforce that I was wrong about that, I want to go to this video that shows how everything really started.
Here is where we first see Joseph Rosenbaum, the first person Kyle Rittenhouse fatally shoots that night. He He joins the fight against the armed civilians, as other protesters try to stop him. Rosenbaum has just been released from the hospital after undergoing mental health treatment. His reasons for being here are unclear, and he doesn't appear to have attended a protest before. But his actions on this night will add to an already volatile situation. Rittenhouse walks towards a parking lot where cars are being vandalized. He passes Joseph Rosenbaum, who was fighting with the armed men at the gas station earlier. Rosenbaum now starts chasing Rittenhouse and throws a plastic bag that holds his belongings from the hospital. Close behind them, a man holds up a handgun and fires it. We don't know why. Then Rosenbaum lunges towards Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse fires 4 times.
So those details matter, right? Who was chasing who matters. The gunshots by some other unidentified person, that matters, especially if you're Rittenhouse and you're running away and then you hear shots and then Rosenbaum lunges toward him. So the question is, in a court of law, is it considered reasonable for Rittenhouse to act in self-defense? Was there a legitimate threat there where Rittenhouse would reasonably want to defend himself by opening fire? That is what's going to be debated and deliberated upon, okay? Other details I wanted to share with you about this case. So he's facing 6 charges. Here's what the charges are. First-degree reckless homicide, first-degree recklessly endangering safety. I mean, remember, you have members of militia groups there with open carry, which is legal in Wisconsin. You have him running around with this gun, like literally running around with this weapon. So that's one of the charges he's facing. You have first-degree intentional homicide, attempted first-degree intentional homicide for the shooting of Gage Grosskreutz, who was wounded but is still alive. You also have possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under the age of 18. I want to make a correction on our previous reporting on that issue as well. He did in fact hold possession of a firearm that he was not legally allowed to carry, okay? It is illegal for him to have it because he's 17. However, previously it was reported that he had obtained the gun in Illinois and then crossed state lines into Wisconsin with that illegal gun. Now it turns out, based on an investigation, that there was an individual who sold the gun to Kyle Rittenhouse in Wisconsin. So he did not cross state lines with an illegal gun, but he had an illegal gun. Okay, so do with that information what you will. It's important to know the facts. Those are the details. Now let's talk about what these charges mean. First-degree intentional homicide is analogous to first-degree murder in other states. It's defined as causing the death of another human being with intent to kill that person or someone else without the presence of certain mitigating circumstances specified in the law. Rittenhouse faces this charge in connection with the fatal shooting of Anthony Uygur. It is a Class A felony that carries a basic sentence of life in prison. Now, after Rittenhouse opened fire and killed Rosenbaum, he then ran away from the scene, and there were protesters there who were like screaming. You can see it in video. They're screaming at him and they're like, "Why did you shoot him? Why did you shoot him?" And there were other protesters who reasonably believed that Kyle Rittenhouse was a threat because he had opened fire. They might not have known the circumstances of how that all went down, but they saw him as a threat, and that was when they were trying to take the weapon away from him. And that was when he opened fire, and in the process of doing so, shot 2 other individuals, with one of them getting injured, surviving, okay? And then the other, Uygur, dying as a result of the wounds. So those are the details as we know them now. And again, I want to reiterate, though Wisconsin is an open carry state where it is legal for adults to carry firearms openly, state law prohibits minors from doing so. Rittenhouse was 17 at the time of the shooting. This crime is a Class A misdemeanor that carries a basic sentence of up to 9 months in prison, a fine of up to $10,000 or both. I think that charge is pretty open and shut. Like, I mean, he's 17, he has the weapon. I think there's a lot of evidence indicating he has the weapon. So I don't see how he would be let off on that charge. But the other charges, based on what we're seeing in video and based on the case that the defense attorney is making, shaky, okay? Now, you can question why Rittenhouse was there. There were members of the Boogaloo Boys there. Obviously, it looks like they were there to cause trouble. They argue they're there to protect the community. But one thing that's abundantly clear to me based on the reports I've seen, the videos I've seen, the cops did absolutely favor the armed militia groups or militia members. They offered them water. At one point, they pushed the protesters and the members of the militia in the same area, very well knowing that could lead to a physical altercation or an eruption of violence. And Rittenhouse, despite the fact he opened fire that night and killed 2 people, was not taken into custody that night. He was taken into custody the next day. He was allowed to leave that night. And I just question if the same treatment would be given to a protester who did the same. And I wouldn't want that. Anyone who opens fire should probably be taken into custody, should be investigated immediately. That didn't happen. And I question why the cops decided to push both groups of people into the same area, very well knowing that these are opposing groups and you have open carry and a pretty dangerous situation brewing. But we'll give you guys more details about this case as we learn them. Again, I think it's important to know the facts. And for my previous inaccuracies, I apologize to you guys. Obviously, it was not intentional, and I want you guys to know what the details are. It is what it is.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.